The helicopter accident was an unfortunate and sudden weather-related accident. Implementing the safety recommendations will prevent the reoccurrence of future accidents. At this time, before I take any questions, I just want to give a few acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge the efforts and the support that the team had from the National Security Secretariat, led by the National Security Coordinator. It made what was a really difficult job for us much easier to do, and encouraged us to do and persevere to come up with these results. I'd like to say thank you also to the US team that joined us for a period of the investigation, the Chinese, for their warm welcome of us when we went to China for the decoding, and all the assistance that they gave us. They were very professional, and they worked with us and got us everything that we needed to be able to fully understand what happened. I'd also like to acknowledge the lead investigator, who in truth is not here today, Air Commodore Akron. He is on national duty outside, but he was a lead investigator and he worked really hard. I'd also like to acknowledge my mother organization, which is the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation Bureau, and its commissioner, Mr. John Wombati, for all the support he gave to us and the full availability of the AIB architecture to help us. And to the team that did this investigation, for their open-mindedness, their objectivity, their logic, their diligence and perseverance, and their dedication and commitment for over 2 months, working close to 7 days every day, sometimes from morning 9 till 9 at night, because we knew the country was hungry to know what had happened. And finally, thank God for blessing us and giving us the fortitude, the mindset, and for guiding us to come up with this report, which we hope will bring closure to the families of our departed heroes and to the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Fujo, for that comprehensive and detailed report. Well, at this stage, I would invite questions from members of the media present, so that any clarifications that are required are made before we leave. If you have a question, please take the microphone, identify yourself, the organization you work for, and ask it so that answers may be provided.
Good afternoon. My name is Maxwell. I work with Joy FM and Joy News. I know a lot of Ghanaians will be curious to know if the investigative committee listened to the audio recordings, of the helicopter. And I want to find out if indeed you listened, if it's possible to give us an idea of what happened in that moment. And then the second question, you talked about modernizing the fleet of the Ghana Armed Forces. I know right after the incident, there were calls to modernize the fleet, and this revelation is definitely going to reignite the calls, especially also coming on the back of recent discoveries about the presidential jet. I know there are investments, there are plans to inject $1 billion to retool the security agencies. As an expert, I want to find out how fast should we do this and which areas should we look at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, please? Yeah, courage. Yeah.
Komla Kulichi. I work at Media General. What was the sudden cause of the loss of altitude for the aircraft, and also the fact that there was postponement in the airworthiness of the helicopter? One, was there an understanding why the Ghana Air Force postponed the initial maintenance of the Z9, and what was the reason behind this?
Thank you very much. Any other questions, please? Okay, so Captain Fojo would answer these, after which we'll come back for another round of questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your questions. Yes, we listened to the CVR. We listened to it several times. And it is part of what informed us of what caused the accident. And for modernization of the fleet, we think it should be done immediately. Tomorrow is not fast enough. As soon as the country can afford and do it, we should do it, because it would help the Air Force with this core mandate, part of which is to fly dignitaries all over the country. And I think we owe it to ourselves as a nation to make sure that we have aircraft fit for purpose, aircraft that are the highest technology, to make sure that everything is very, very safe. Yeah. To the sudden loss of altitude, I'm sure it was in one of the slides. When you over rugged territory, that's over terrain, dependent on the steepness and so on and so forth, it's very easy to have turbulence. It's caused by eddies and rotors. It's an aviation phenomena, right? And you have updrafts, you have downdrafts. And even interestingly, even above the ridge, you can still have downdrafts coming. And it's not, it's a phenomenon, it's an aviation phenomena that unfortunately they fell into. They were very unfortunate, but it's a phenomenon that they fell into. And because there cannot be any other reason for that sudden loss of altitude for a plane climbing with power, with a pitch attitude, right? Because you see, the flight data recorder, to just help you understand the whole thing, the flight data recorder records the last 10 hours of a flight. The cockpit voice recorder records the last 2 hours of a flight. The flight data recorder, this particular one of this helicopter, records 93 parameters every second. The 93 parameters is made up of 48 analog parameters and 45 switch positions. So, looking at the flight data report, you know where all the switch positions are, you know what the height of the plane was, you know the exact position you know it time bound. So, what we are saying is from informed data. It's not that we've just conjectured something. We have the data, we've looked at it, and that is how come we've come with the conclusions we've come up with. I hope I've answered. Then the last one, the postponement of the maintenance. It's industrial practice, it's operational. In the airlines, it's done. Air Force doing it, there's nothing wrong with it. It's accepted practice. So there's nothing to it. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are any more questions, I'll take them now. Yeah.
My name is Abdul Hanan Adam. I work with the EIB network. Minister, I'd like to find out from the experts if there was any possibility for an emergency landing, and was there an avenue for them or the crew to consider that?
Was there what? Please
an avenue.
Avenue, okay.
For the crew to
as in, was there a place nearby where they
exactly
okay,
for
right.
an emergency landing?
All right.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
My name is Julius. I report for the Ghanaian Times. Sir, in your presentation, you mentioned that the helicopter was in a very good shape. But then they did not have what you called avionics safety requirements, additional avionics safety requirement. If they had, would it have assisted them to avoid this? And then outside of your report, there have been a lot of speculations about the final moments of the aircraft from eyewitnesses that it exploded, parts scattered all over the place. Could you address this for us, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm back again. If my memory could serve me right, I think the release by the Ghana Armed Forces just shortly after the announcement was made in this hall by the Chief of Staff did indicate that the heli went off the radar. But from the presentation, we are made to understand that there was no monitoring. I stand to be corrected though. How do we marry these two?
All right. Thank you very much. Is there another question, please? Okay, so Captain Fojo will take these questions here.
Thank you once again for your questions. I would like to presume that when you say emergency landing, you mean a diversion, because an emergency landing is when something goes wrong with the plane, because nothing ever went wrong with the plane. The decision to continue or to do an intermediate landing is the discretion of the captain. The captain was confident that he didn't need to do it. That is why he didn't do it. In terms of the additional avionics, right, I believe the question was if they had it, would it have prevented the accident? Was that the question? Okay. All I would say is it could have prevented the accident because it would have put the pilots in a better situational awareness mode. And it would have put them in a much better place to have taken decisions which could possibly have avoided this. But let's not kid ourselves. Let me just say something. What they went through is the sort of thing that even the best anywhere would have struggled to get out of, using what they were, with the limited instrumentation and so on that they had. The instrumentation, the instrumentation was fit for everything, but what we are saying is, I guess it's like saying that more meat never spoils the soup. It's, if you have all these other enhancements, it really helps. The Air Force the Air Force would be happy to have these enhancements because they know what it would help them do, and it would make our dignitaries and so on much safer when they fly. So that is why we are recommending that. But it doesn't mean that the fact that those enhancements were not there, that is why the accident happened. No, it would be wrong to say so. That would be too far-fetched. In terms of the explosion, there was no explosion before. You know, the Z9 helicopter, its fuel tank actually is under the where the passengers sit, right? So when it impacted, and don't forget, it was doing a flight to Obuasi and back. It wasn't going to refuel in Obuasi. So it had fueled up well. So on impact, that is when the explosion took place. We looked at all that. We looked at the corroboration. The time when, because you see, when there was the impact, when the explosion, forget, there were eyewitness accounts. So the eyewitness accounts tally with what we're saying. In terms of the helicopter going off radar, our radar systems in the country are just Accra, Kumasi. The route they were flying, together with the height at which they were flying, it was very easy for them to go off radar. It's normal. Flight monitoring, which is what we're talking about, is different from being on a radar, right? Flight monitoring is knowing where your aircraft is at any time. It doesn't have to be on a radar screen. It can be through messages. That's why we said things like secondary surveillance, radar broadcasts, and so on and so forth, right? But it's a tracking system, okay, and it should be done for all Air Force aircraft. In fact, in the civil world, airlines, by law, have to track the aircraft. So what we're asking for is we're not asking for the moon. It's something that must be done. I hope I've answered your questions. Thank you.
So if there are any final questions, we will take them. Otherwise, we call it a day. All right. So thank you very much for coming. And thanks to Captain Fojo and his team for delivering a comprehensive report, which, for all intents and purposes, should put to rest any doubts about the events of that fateful day. Thanks all. Thanks to you all for coming here. All right.
Experience volta in Accra. Experience volta
Miato awawi aklak ple gauva zu kose nya pali hai kemienu na avazo asana abuzu makete ple agoti makete va vayu kenenye da dabli bo du matore kana mugang tua ha oba yotwe miato awao na mie chokabo jen ple agbelika klo yakai ke ple bubu ha o hoga wotoe na uchu akoba mi awao miaduna agbaja ple bobobo vomanya be atrikpi jogbo kinka misagu akpi zigi shagbi kokple novia okata onye mi awao po awuhoho awuhovi wonu toa elema ye nu ya okata ejiyim ye miedu teza mavao miedu hogba mavao miedu agba mavoza mavao miedu bizakle azabu bwa awobevi mavao so ava chigbenamlo kama va miedu experience volta in Accra festival tetia ajeba mianye be na Mohammed ma yitoji oka etuanto ava Mohammed bo ajeba miakwe ya de jeshi be so de ta ye miajila dena ashivuvufuru alabama chichi okra odu alobe chachala Noa jidela itemie ko experience voters aya chova egishia mahairo kan kia ganya oda flat chedo do fiaba ayebevi yama kpoguma le experience volta in Accra kwa wona omo don koji be azaya do vaba ya temi ehwa okata afofue hana de kawo yema avamia difie ajobe nyawe nya hwa ocho amugano to mavava experience volta in Accra vamia demia pale kawono kisino no pla achodo no vava yone le miesi afie ajoja vamia dunu apopu adura akpojijo de miano ewonu experience volta in Accra wonaya avaji le jinwi evapa nkekewi eton agbe le Airwax Sports Stadium le ging toama novi magano pomebo wa yagbo ava blena yohi
festival time. Move your feet, hear that rhyme. Experience volta in Accra. Experience volta Experience volta in Accra. Experience volta
aƒenɔ nyitsɔta kpekpe amiewoa nyemekpɔ wo ɖe wo ŋutɔ paa
Gabiake, dɔléle vivivia ɖokui va fu ɖem nam le ŋkeke yawo me.
nuka heyi ke Amuzu Herbal Clinic le afi ma afi ka tutue vem
Ne mefɔ le abadzi fia, lãme katã nɔ nye vem abe kpotsɔƒome ene.
ehia ne Amuzu pii eɖe ge ɖa zi ɖeka
Dɔme hã ɖunam vevie eye nenye be nuɖuɖu ge ɖe dɔme nama mesena veve vevie.
ke ehia ne Amuzu ke
Tɔgbinye ke yiƒe ʋu mete nɔ wu dɔ ɖe ɖoɖo ŋu o ɖe, yi hã leke wɔ ge.
ehia ne Amuzu Garlic Bitters
Amuzu Herbal Clinic, woƒe atikewo katã koe nye ya.
Au ke mese Amuzu Herbal Clinic ƒe ŋkɔ nyuie ɖe Amuzu Herbal Mixture li ne va wɔ ʋumedodo kpɔ eye wobe asrãdɔe le fu ɖem na woa Amuzu Herbal Mixture no ge ne le
Ɖokodzi be atike ya menyo na nyɔnufunɔwo, nyɔnu yiwo ke nunamevi kple ɖevi suewo. Ne dzi le agbɔsɔsɔ mea, wokana dzesi yawo. Míawo ya míatsɔ míaƒe lãmesenyawo atsɔ fefefewo edzi mí Ghanatɔwo dzɔm elabe Sankofa Natural Spices míatɔ míaƒe dzɔdzɔmenuʋeʋĩwo yiwo tsɔ wɔe eyi ke wɔe be nye mɔluɖaɖa kple tadi vovovowo yiwo katã yi ke mewɔna ewɔnɛ tɔxɛ.
amesrɔ̃ kibabia le gbedzi ŋutɔ
Tso egbadzia, Sankofa Natural Spices koe míanɔ zazam elabe wotsɔ míantɔ míaƒe dzɔdzɔmenuʋeʋĩwo tsɔ wɔe abe ale yi ke ko míedzine ene. Nɔvi megawɔ vodada o. Sankofa Natural Spices, ɖunu negaɖunu ake.
FDA da asi ɖe boblododo ya dzi.
Experience Volta in Accra. Experience Volta.
Míatɔ eʋawoe aklã kple gawu va zu kose. Míaƒe aliha yi ke míenona eva zu asana. Agbozume kete kple agɔtime kete vava yiwo ke nenye dada blibo dometɔ ɖeka na moga ŋutɔa hã wobe yewo toe he. Míatɔ eʋawo ne míetso kabɔ dze kple agbeli-kaklo yakaike kple bubuawo hã woxɔ ga wotɔe he. Ne wotso ake wobe mí eʋawo míeɖuna agbadza kple bɔbɔbɔ. Vɔ womenya be atrikpi, dzogbo, kinka, misago, akpi, zigi, sagbekɔ kple nɔviawo katã wonye mí eʋawo ƒe eʋu ƒoƒo. Awuʋevi wo tɔ hã ele me ye nu yawo katã edzi yim. Yi míeɖu tezã me va o, míeɖu hogbe me va o, míeɖu agbamevɔzã me va o, míeɖu gbiza kple azã bubuawo awuʋevi me va o. So ava tsi gbe nem lo ke mava míaɖu Experience Volta in Accra Festival tetia. Edze be míanye be ne Mohammed ma yi toa dzi o ke etoa ŋutɔ ava Mohammed gbɔ. Edze be míakpɔe de dzesi be susuwo ɖe ta ye míadzilawo dena asi vovovowo ɖo elabe ame tsitsiwo kura wodo alo be tsatsala kpɔ nuawo dzi de la. Yi te míeko Experience Volta zaya tsɔ va egeshia me hã ɖo. Kenkia ganye wòda fla tsedodo fia be eye ʋevi ye makpɔ gome le Experience Volta in Accra ƒe wɔnawo me. Ɖokodzi be azaya ɖo va be yate mi eʋawo katã aƒoƒui hena ɖeka wɔwɔ. Ye ma va míaɖi fie edzoawo be míawoe nye ʋawo tso amugano to me vava. Experience Volta in Accra va míaɖe míaƒe lekewɔnuwo, kesinɔnuwo kple atsyɔɖonu vava yiwo ne le mía si afie edzoa dza. Va míaɖu nu aƒoƒu aɖu ɣe akpɔ dzidzɔ ɖe mía nɔewo nu. Experience Volta in Accra wɔna ya ava dzi le dziŋui eve ƒe ŋkeke wi-etɔ̃ agbe le Airwax Sports Stadium le gɛŋtoa me. Nɔvi meganɔ ƒe me be woayi agbɔ ava gblẽ na yewo he.
Festival time. Move your feet. Hear that rhyme. Experience Volta in Accra.